cosmos out of chaos. What brought you guys to Costa Rica?
The first time we came in '98, and then we kept coming back, and then Stefan opened the Blue Spirit.
Okay.
And we always used to do retreats for couples for Tantra Mantra.
Amazing.
And we did them in Tulum for quite a few years. And then Stefan said, I've got just the right group room for you. Right. So we came. That was in 2011 or 2010.
Oh, wow.
When everything was dirt roads and no paving.
Right.
98.
Yes.
98 we
That's
went to
first
the
time.
other side, Puerto Viejo.
Oh,
Oh,
Puerto
okay.
Viejo. Oh my gosh, how was Puerto Viejo in
It was
1998?
like a Caribbean reggae
Yeah.
small
was
village.
Magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
I really like the concept of each of our times in certain places and the privilege we have when we arrive. Because I find when you arrive, as life goes on, a lot of people tend to look back and be like, it's changing. Oh, and but I think if they look back and said, wow, I got to be here before the thing that would actually eventually has to happen, which is the change, and to like preserve that. And in your heart to be like, I had the honor, like the first time I was in Costa Rica was like 2008. And I was like, it was so different. I can't even imagine 98. So I'm so like, I have such admiration to what that must have been like. Because in 2008, same idea. We did like a road trip around this Guanacaste Peninsula. And it was like, there wasn't a piece of paved road anywhere. It's like the slowest drive of my life, but it really allowed us to like.
It was so raw, right?
Yeah.
We get to experience a place in its raw fullness.
Just can't imagine what it's like without the sound of the traffic, without the sound of the humans. Just imagine what this was like.
Yeah.
Paradise.
If you ever, there's a book by, it was a diary actually, and it's Captain Cook, this famous explorer who discovered America and Australia and everything for the English. And he was writing his diary, and he was saying that when they put down the anchor near what is now Kauai and the Big Island, he said that the most important thing you could actually smell were the flowers. There was just a fragrance coming from the island.
Wow.
That's.
I mean, that's what we've come to this, so
Right.
we need to find ways for our inner journey. That's where the escape route is. It's not on the outside. It's only going to get more and more. It is. You have to face that. And it's still beautiful. Somehow Mother Nature's
Yes.
still with us,
Yeah.
but you have to stop, take stock sometimes and sit and meditate. That's just the only escape. In the end, that's it.
Yeah.
If we're inside and we're friendly with ourselves, if we're at peace with ourselves, and then nothing can harm that. Nothing can harm that.
Yeah. Peace is
No
inside.
religion, no government, no one can get in there. That's you. And once you're in that space, man, then, you're just grateful for every speck of dust that goes up your nose.
Yes, there's quite a lot of specks of dust in this town, especially. My goodness. So and obviously you guys have done extensive traveling, like together, touring and everything like that. And what keeps you, like, why Costa Rica over everywhere else? What do you think that is?
I mean, actually, it's divine guidance, like everything in my life, and I'm sure in Miten's life too, has happened like as a gift, has kind of presented itself, like me meeting Miten and bringing me into music, or just so many things. And we never expected to live here or wished to live anywhere, really. We were on the road for 32 years.
On the road for
And
32.
the longest
wow.
we spent anywhere was in Australia, in near Byron Bay.
Wow.
And that was our beautiful place to be for the winter months or their summer months. And so that was a migration pattern we had for 30 years. And
More or less, yeah.
pretty. And it did consist of 1 month in Costa Rica, which was March every year.
Yeah.
So in March 2020, we came to Costa Rica, as always, and the world changed. The borders closed, and we let them close, and we stayed and we just
We didn't have anywhere to go back to.
and
We
any wish
never,
to go
we
anywhere.
haven't actually had a base, a real base, ever since we went. We met in India. We met in an ashram. We were there to meditate, and that's where the music came from. Those times in the ashram,
Right. Yeah.
learning that music appears out of silence. So the way that we approach that is the way in life is that your actions and your movement comes out of silence, a silent space. If the music comes out of that, and then you can go on a journey, and then when it lands, it's taken you to a deeper space than the one that you left, and then you sit and that's how we can travel all the while, because that's what we do with the people. So it's not like rock and roll, it's church really. It's
Yes.
people coming together just to lift the burden for a while, just lift the burden and be in the moment and be in the God realm. That's how we can keep going for so long.
And out of all that traveling, what other wonderful, what were some of your most wonderful places
Outside of Costa Rica.
outside of Costa Rica,
Yeah.
which you made your home?
When we, like I said, Byron Bay, Malambimbi, I don't know, I'm sure you've been there in Australia. That's
No.
We've never
Never been
actually
to
been to
Australia. That was the
Australia.
one place we still
I think
haven't.
we were going to go when COVID hit. It
And
was a
then-
part
Yeah,
of that year's
yeah, yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
This
I
is
mean,
this is like Byron
is
Bay
like-
was
yeah.
20 years ago. Now
Wow.
it's a
It's developed
It's
as
a
well
town.
now.
Yeah, and it has the same tropical,
Nice feel, though.
tropical fauna and flora. Sorry,
it's beautiful.
and it just has this vast natural space that's really, really very, very rare in a way. That also to have that much space, these long beaches where there's nobody there.
Yeah,
and
miles
Wow.
of beach.
Wow.
just these
Miles of
huge,
beach.
vast landscapes and skies and
Mm-hmm.
and a beautiful spiritual community also, So we had it's very much in a way it's kind of like it's very similar to here
Right.
in many ways,
Right.
and so that definitely. And then we were also in Greece every year for
Oh, Greece.
2 months in Corfu in Greece.
We do
Corfu,
programs there,
wow. I've
So
heard
it's
actually that's a
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah,
place.
so
Corfu,
that
yeah.
was a really precious place to us too. And then, then there are so many pockets around the world where there's beautiful communities. and-
Yeah.
and we play for them.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
point.
yeah.
We're in Byron Bay, then we play in Sydney and Brisbane and the towns in that part of Australia, Melbourne and Byron Bay, and then we go to here and we have people come here from Blue Spirit, then we meet them, share with them, and then go on to the European tour with our musicians come, and then we're like
Right.
we're like a tribe of like 10 to 15 people on that tour, going from one country to another.
Wow. And you guys are going on tour very soon, right? You have a tour coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
we have.
Why do you laugh like that?
Well, up until now, I've never had a home, so I've never felt like I'm away from home on
Right.
tour.
Yeah.
It's just this is it,
It's just life.
It's
right? You're
just where we are, and
moving.
we've been
Yeah.
together so long.
Right.
We've been like almost 24/7 for 32 years,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I know.
Funny, isn't it?
No, I was thinking about that. I'm thinking apart from about a week or two where David went to Africa to go on safari, and I went to the mountains, and apart from that, very rare. We're usually just hanging out very easily with each other, and the singing is our tantric connection too. So we sing like that from the understanding where the music comes from, why we're actually singing.
Right.
What
Yeah.
is this? And so that's Deva was born to the mantras. She was born with her father chanting the mantra Gayatri.
Gayatri mantra.
So that's in her blood, So it's no performing. It's not like we're trying to convince anyone of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
think, and you feel that. I mean, your Gayatri mantra, Mark and I, have been listening to your music for a long time, but I think it was that specific mantra that you created that really, really resonates with us personally, but also, I mean, I can tell many, many people out there in the world as well. But when you say that, like, I think there is this deeper magic that comes with it. It's not just a song. It's not just your beautiful voice. It is truly like a channeled energy that you bring forward through the music, through this art that you create that hits really deeply. And it's beautiful that you say that this is something that you've been, listening to since you were a little girl and a little child. So it's
And
really
involved in actually chanting it.
chanting it too. Wow.
What does that mantra mean to you guys?
I mean, the interesting thing is that when I grew up, I didn't know what it meant. So it was just something that was like part of being home or being in the family, or like it was a very. And my father, he was an artist, and it was really came from his, his enthusiasm and his depth of really immersing himself into yoga and Sanskrit, and that's what he wanted to share. So, and my father, when I see my father, I see greens and browns because his art was a lot of earthy colors, and so the Gayatri is for me has that same feeling of these earthy colors, this kind of very benevolent, natural tapestry to kind of be at home in. And so I didn't know it was called Gayatri mantra. I didn't really know what it meant as a kid. I sang it as a good night song every night for three times, 3 rounds. And
She was a strange girl.
no, I didn't have it. I wasn't strange. He was strange. I mean, he made me strange. I did it because they did it with me, and that was just what we did.
Yeah.
And as soon as I realized I had a choice, I stopped, But when it came back, it was like, wow, this was in that soil of this brown and green color, that a seed had been there the whole time. And it was actually 20 years later that it came back into my field, and that I heard somebody else chant it, and I realized it was a thing. I realized it was something that had a name, and that actually millions of people around the world chant, because it is the oldest mantra known to humanity. And it's part of Hinduism now, and it's it's in that whole in that whole, in a way, religion. But really these sounds are way older than that, and Hinduism adopted them and then became this thing called Hinduism. But it wasn't like there was Hinduism and then now we make the Gayatri mantra, But the Hinduism was a term given to what had happened thousands of years before already. These sounds received in meditation by these ancient meditators that could tune into the universal vibration and then respond to it on a human level with a voice, and to recreate the universal frequencies with the human voice. Wow. And that's the mantra, And then, of course, now we put meaning to it, and we can translate it.
Right.
And the translation of the Gayatri mantra is that we meditate upon this adorable, enchanting source of all things. So we meditate upon the divine creation. Mm-hmm. This divine light of pure consciousness awakens us,
It's
or
so beautiful.
purifies us, or energizes us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mantra that really invokes the light. It's a mantra for enlightenment, or the light. So it's not like a particular deity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a particular quality of like joy, abundance, whatever. It's light. So everything can be lit up, and everything needs to be lit up, and that's the invitation to the light.
Wow.
So I'm just going to sing it just the way I used to sing it as a kid 3
Okay.
times before, which is also how we chant it now. Bhargo devasya dhimahi धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्
Now, if you have your eyes open, just close your eyes for a moment. And join Deva with the mantra Om together, watching wherever you are.
Yeah, and then when you're in this space, you know, like now the sounds all around, they're
Yeah.
all wrapped up in silence, you know.
Yeah. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
I had just chills, goosebumps through my whole body. You know, just that energy, that frequency. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for for sharing that. Wow. You know, I was thinking there's something really interesting that we were just recently talking about, and you know, they've done some scientific studies on water, and with different words, but also mantras and sounds. And it's incredible when you see these photographs of the way water, let's say coming from a tap, looks one way, and then the Gayatri mantra or any other healing mantras are sung, it turns into a mandala.
We actually had that done.
You guys had that
We actually
done?
sent it to the laboratory, and we have the
Wow.
crystals, you know, where you see the water crystals before and after with the Gayatri mantra. And
Wow.
And you see it all shimmering and
yeah, that's the
moving.
different. That's the one in movement. We have the two. You know, one
that's
yeah.
That's
How do you explain that?
Well, she just did. You know, you have to when those beings were receiving these sounds from meditation, when it became into the human realm, then it started to get interesting because it became human too. We started to figure out how to put this sound together and then that sound. What happens then? What about if these? Oh wow! And it started to become some kind of scientific knowledge, but at the same time sourced in a totally mystical way. And that's what these mantras are. They're all sound. They're not language. They're just sounds. You know,
energy.
they're
Yeah.
sounds. They're energetic sounds.
Right.
And you know, so and we can only bear witness to their you know what they've given us and what we've been allowed to give them, because when we start to chant a mantra, it's like, you know, rubbing the genie lamp. The mantra comes out and then you better hold on, you know, see where we go with this. So it's not like a performance, it's really like an in the moment thing that we can all move in together. It's very tantric when we're all together chanting together and moving in a certain vibe. And that's where the healing happens, you know,
Yes.
for all of us, for Deva and I, and for the musicians, everybody. So it doesn't get tiring. It's not like, oh God. It's energetic. It's an energetic phenomenon, you know.
Right.
I mean, look, I'm 112 now. So I don't look it. I only look around about 70, right? David, she's 81.
Yeah.
Look at
You know,
that.
look at that.
What's your secret,
How do you
guys?
believe that?
Yeah, tell us.
What is your
Oh my
secret?
goodness.
It starts with M and it finishes with A. Mantra.
Wow. So do you think that kind of concept, like when you speak of an understanding of music, of mantra-driven music, in the way that you're channeling in energy, And then we put words to it, and we as human beings seem to try to figure it out, and we call it a certain thing. But from what I hear you saying, the more you release to it, the more pure the channel becomes. Do you think that that applies across music as a whole? Like, do you think that's like, how would you explain music in those terms?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, music is the most powerful transformer, and into anything. It can go one way or the other. You know, like it can it can bring anger and rage and that kind of fire. It can bring peace or healing, and then the mantras. You know, for me, always the mantras, the music opens the heart, and then the mantras somehow go even deeper, because through the music, our we feel good, we are open, we want to hear those sounds, we are touched, we are open, and then the mantras can sink even deeper, but they don't need the music to work. But for me, to put music to them makes them even stronger, because it's like, you know, you want to immerse yourself even more, or you are immersed even more deeper in it.
I think this thing. I hear what you're saying, but the element that for me is obvious. It's the way that you chant. It's so much in your blood. I've seen it all these years, you know, and that has nothing to do with in any way, anything to do with performance or ambition. It's got nothing. It doesn't come from there. It comes from that moment of silence. Again, Deva and I, we meditated for many, many, many years when we first knew each other. Before we started singing, we weren't singing together. Deva wasn't singing. She was studying body work in the ashram. She has healing hands. And I was coordinating the evening music for the thing. See, music is like, you know, when you play music, it's like you have a key, and it's a key to your soul, and it's a key to the meaning. It's a key to you beyond your personality. That's the gift. That's what music can do for the musician. But what I saw before I understood what meditation was back in the 70s, in the rock world and that whole world, I saw that the key was, until I got out of it, the musicians, all these great musicians in my life, you know, in the 70s and the 60s, I saw that all they did was polish the key and make it more and more beautiful, put some studs in it, wow, but they never used the key. They just made the key more and more fantastic. In the end, many of them did use the key in their later years, but for me, that was when I learned what real music was. When Osho helped me to feel the silence where the music is actually being born out of. That's where it is. And if you go there, then you're on the wings of silence, even when you're making the sounds, because the sounds are not, I love you, baby, why did you leave me? You know, they're these sounds that we're just riding on, you know. And if you do that for a few hours with loads of people, then that's transformative, you know, for all of us.
No, that's the most astounding explanation of music.
Yeah.
And artists, especially modern day or like popular artists that I've ever heard. Before Bo Beautiful, I spent a decade, maybe more of my life touring in music. Then it eventually led me to work I ran my own record label, but then I ended up running a major record label, like the A&R department. And that's when I really got to understand the very, very fine nuance between an artist that is truly an expressive vehicle for something greater than themselves, and an artist that sees a vehicle they can be, but thinks it's to take them to some destination that they're told will bring them some sort of fulfillment.
Man, you're in the weird realm in that world, huh?
It drove me
It's
crazy.
a strange
Yeah.
world.
It took me to a very, very...
How can you monetize music and everyone gets fucked up? The guys, the sensitive guys who write in songs, they want to be known, and there you go. You immediately go into the carrots there. We got you, you know.
Yes.
And so when I got out of that, I didn't even tell anybody in that ashram I'd been a musician. I was like out of there, man. I washed the rice, I chopped the carrots, and I didn't do much more for that first time. I just learned meditation. I learned to be in this amazing community, and I was healing, and slowly the music came back. As I just wanted to say thank you to the Guruji. Really, how could I do that? The only way I could really show it was to pick up the guitar again, and
So beautiful.
Wash,
and then that brought
And
me.
wash.
wash rights, chop carrots.
Yeah,
Chop wood carrots.
that's it,
That's
man.
right. That's amazing.
That's it, man. I was like, I'm off the hook.
Wow.
No ambition, no, and being nourished. Also, beautiful people, beautiful girls to be connected with, beautiful men, learning how to hug without any kind of connotation beyond just being held. Just being held by somebody of the same sex, like
Right.
you know, just being in there and being able to. And then also to be holding the you know, the opposite sex and feeling the same thing, just being held, you know, and holding, and not just for one breath, but hey, take it easy, take a breath, you know. And when the music and everything starts to come from this,
That's
From
the
such a deep
world
place. Wow.
starts to.
it's funny. I had a same cleansing experience where when I left, I ghosted everything music. Like just basically pulled the
He
plug.
couldn't even listen to
I
music
couldn't
for a
even
while.
for at least 5
Yeah.
years. I couldn't
Yeah.
even listen to music
Yeah.
anymore. It had just like it had caused such deep confliction to something that was so like at that time I didn't know how to explain it, but it was like such a spiritual experience for me, music, and it had brought in all of these very strange like egoic desires and principles and just like I'm watching it drive so many of the people I loved crazy. Like so many artists I believed in that you thought were a certain way, and then you end up working with them, and they're just like, oh, it's not, it's not pure. And so I ghosted and did yoga. That was my wash rice,
That's
chop
great.
carrots. So we just started doing yoga and just started like coming into ourselves,
That's it.
and then I
Yeah.
crept back into music.
Yeah.
But in a
Like
different way.
it was like okay, and I started to play piano again, and that was like that felt really nice, and I couldn't listen to anything else. I could only play piano, and then eventually like I went to the records I fell in love with first as a kid, like and I was like that helped me reimagine what music was supposed to be.
Yeah, start again, fresh new
Yeah,
start.
from the
Yeah,
ground.
it's
It's
such
like full circle, you know. It comes, you drop it for it to come back again. And when it comes back clean. You can play it. You can feel. I can do this. This is
Yeah.
me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's
that's
great,
so
man.
fascinating. Oh my goodness.
I'm so fascinated by your experience, like living at the ashram. How many years did you guys live there? Was it in the ashram, Osho's ashram in India, or where
Yeah.
in India?
Yeah.
I think we lived there for about 3 years continuously, and then for 10 years, a few months every year.
Oh,
Wow.
So we were very lucky super lucky, that we were talking about earlier, but that we were lucky to be there so early and to actually be in Osho's presence when he was in his
Wow.
body, to actually sit and listen and be in that community in around the Guru.
Right.
And then also to let go of that attachment to the Guru and the idea that there's a person that you want to be near
Right.
to, and you need to be near to be close to something, And but we stayed about 10 years after he left his body. We still stayed for many, many months. We would go there, and then even those walls fell down, and the whole world became our ashram. It was a beautiful opening. We needed. I guess you need to be in a nest. We was kind of like a, we were just kind of.
Almost like you're training a little bit, right?
You're
Like it was
training
your
and
cocoon.
until you have that, that, and then you
And
don't need
training
that.
is can be tough, you know. It's he liked the edge of things. He was like, come on, you think you're enlightened? Let me just take you a little bit further there, you know. Let me take you out of your comfort zone. Because he felt that we would be aware of the godly presence if we were in some kind of chaotic place in our lives where we didn't know who we were, didn't know what we were doing and where we were going, when we're in that other space, he would try and bring us out there by contradicting himself in the discourses. So sometimes he would talk about Buddha for for days and days, and then suddenly he would somehow contradict a whole load of things. So just for us to go, wow, where am I now? What is this? So he was always trying to get us to, and all the meditations were pretty non-mental. They were designed for 30 to 40, no, 20 to 30-year-old Western kids. That's who when he first started to teach Western people, we were all hippies and and he said, I've got to do something with all this energy. I want to help this energy. It's got to move up, to move it up. You want to get stuck with it down there, which is what society wants you to do, to find a way to, and then it gets into how do you do that? And when you get a kind of a rebellious teacher or somebody who's ready to experiment, then it's often looked on as something really weird. And in some cases it is probably, but in Osho's world, it was amazing just to be able to go to places in myself in a safe environment. And I knew I was going to, if I wanted to cathartic, and there was a meditation which helped me to scream my head off.
Wow.
And it was right there, and it was available. And I could do it, and I did every day for almost a year,
So
just to deal with
what kind was that
It's
meditation?
called the dynamic meditation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. It's very, very strong. It's not for the faint-hearted. You do a lot of early morning. You start early morning. I can talk you through the phases, but I don't think I'm here right now. But so yeah, so it was that. It was designed. He'd already been speaking to thousands. He was already in trouble in India because he spoke so freely about all their sexual attitudes. So he was attracting thousands and thousands of forward-looking Indian people. But then they started to. He never wrote any books, but when he started to talk, they started to record what he said, and they put it into a book form, and that's when the Western people started to, wow. That's how I came to. I read something, and I just knew I had to go. And
So you sought him out after reading some of his
yeah, when I read this particular thing, the first time I ever read anything or heard anything of him, and because nobody really back then in the 70s, there wasn't like loads of gurus. People didn't know about gurus or think about it. It was just a few people who were into that. But yeah, I just read something, and it was a Zen story. It was he was talking on a Zen parable. I'll tell you because now we're into it. You'll be interested because of the musician side of it. The parable was that this nun was going to get water from the well. It was on a full moon night, and her name was Chiono. Buddhist nun. And apparently she was beautiful, and she was on her way back to the monastery, and she happened to look into the bucket and see the reflection of the full moon. Exactly at that moment, the bucket broke, and the moon disappeared, and she turned around and she realized her whole life had been focused on the reflection of the real thing, but not the real thing. And she turned round, which is what you did when you stopped, and she saw the full moon, and glory, and she came enlightened. I read that, and that was my music. Everything I was writing, everything I was singing, everything I was doing, somehow I knew there was something. I thought it was in this expression of being, in my art of being a songwriter, and a singer. But it wasn't. And It was somewhere else completely. And when I got to that world and I heard the reality of that, which is like hundreds and hundreds of people singing like mantras or anything, they just singing like thousands of people were singing these beautiful, sometimes English chants, lots of Sufi chants. And it was like, wow, I'm not qualified for play here, man. I'm not telling anybody. I'm just going to drink this in.
Right.
Phew. So so when we started to go and play in front of people, we just promised each other it would never be a performance. We would always keep it. So then it's like getting in bed with each other, you know. It's just like nice
Right.
and comfortable,
Yeah.
and something happens, and things happen, and that's the journey.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. How did you end up at the ashram? Because that's where you two met originally.
Yeah, I mean,
yes?
it like I said, when I realized I had a choice not to chant the mantras anymore. First, I was going to become Christian. I felt like that would be the way to be baptized, because I hadn't been baptized yet, and I just got totally secretly into
Rebelliously.
Jesus.
That was David's teenage rebellion.
Yeah.
Wanted to be a Christian.
Yeah, it was.
Man, the things I did in comparison.
Was for earlier. I was already at 9 or 10 years old.
Oh wow.
And then at 10, I was introduced to Osho's meditations, and those meditations that Miten just mentioned, which involved shaking and dancing, catharsis, breathing, you know. They were perfectly suitable for me at that age. And I just loved doing those meditations. I felt immediately attracted and at home with the community that was in Germany. I wasn't in India. And it was like just a natural thing. This is my home. I don't know. It just didn't, there wasn't that much kind of explanation.
Right.
But in those days you had to wear red clothes and mala as a kind of a challenge. It was kind of like another step to saying goodbye to your old
Right.
life and receive a new name, which is Deva Premal.
Oh, that's when you received.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got that at 11 years old, and I went to
Divine
school.
loving.
Divine loving.
That's the name that he gave her. It's so beautiful, isn't
That
it?
is so
That's
beautiful.
amazing.
So I went to school with the red clothes and the mala and all that
Wow.
for many years. And then when Osho went back to India from America, I had already seen him in America and been there for a few weeks. But then when he was back in India, then I went there to stay at 17, 18 years old, and just enjoyed living in this incredible, in some way, pressure cooker, because it's very confronting to be in an ashram and be with a
Yeah.
bunch of people all on the same
Right.
path.
Was there a lot of people living
There's
during
2,000-3,000 people or
Oh
something.
Wow.
my goodness.
in one place?
Yeah, not all. We lived around the ashram
Okay.
during the day. We
And
would be,
did you meet him for the first time in America,
yeah.
and then went back to India
Yeah.
with him? So was that around the Wild Country era?
Yeah,
of
I was
things?
there. Miten actually lived there, but
Wow.
I just was there as a.
What do you guys? Did you guys
Have
see?
you guys seen the documentary?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
that?
What did you think?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
My goodness, this
How
is
long have you got?
as long as it takes. I'm so interested.
Yeah, me too. Because we've seen it, and we know we had different,
Well, yeah, I don't know.
interesting
Because
perspectives.
we have no
Well,
perspective except
what-
one lens.
Yeah.
You can look at it on different levels. If you look on it as a entertainment, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. No, it's pretty good. Look, the good guys won in the end.
Fix this for this to make sure. So.
That was what I liked about it as a movie.
Right.
That these people in this little town had overcome that huge wave of whatever it was. They had no idea. They just knew it was coming their way, and they fought, and they won. And it will be something that they'll tell their grandchildren about that little town, and it will go on and on. And so they should be grateful to Osho for this great story that they've got, And as far as it was for me personally, if you can imagine Well, you don't have to imagine it. Let me just give you a rough idea. We were maybe 5,000, maybe more, building a city there, and a city where we were going to live and be together, and it was going to be our utopia. We were the people. We thought we were the people then, and and we needed a big slap to wake up. And we got it through the ranch because, we really felt we were the chosen people. We looked at everybody in the world and we just go, what a fuck up, and there's the master saying, look, look. And so we were so totally into this beautiful space and learning and intensity and everything was there, challenge. At the same time, we're building a city. And we're building loads of A-frames. We're fixing up the plumbing of everywhere. We're fixing up the kitchen for all these people, and everything was going really fast. We're going to feed everybody good food, and we have to have. So we got some cows. We got to get the pasture good because it was an old. Some point all the soil had gone, and so it was just this incredible, and it was like being out of the therapy room. Like it was like you can do therapy and you can, but this was like that's another level. It was another level.
Wow.
You were out in this place with such a purpose, and at the same time, so much connection happening, and. So it was, it was a very fantastic thing for men and women to be in this thing and together and Osho. Once that happened, Osho went into silence. He said, "Now you get on with it," because I think he could see something was going to happen. So he stayed out of for a good while. Meanwhile, we were doing our thing and picking bullet holes out of the Rajneeshpuram sign and things, It was better dead than red,
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really intense. And so, a lot of that was on, because it was difficult to explain in the movie what it was like for an individual in there, like me or
Right.
Deva, who would come and go at every big celebration. Deva would be like, I don't know, probably 12, 13 years old, and she would be the first in line to get to the master, and
then there was Sheila, because that was she was his secretary or whatever, and now you quote me all the time. Now I quote you. Miten always says it's like that Trump is your president and you're not into Trump, but you're stuck with him as a president. So Sheila was that. She was.
Nobody voted Sheila in.
No.
It wasn't like that. Osho gave her,
Okay.
this is your
That's
job,
true.
this is your
That's true. She
meditation.
wasn't even voted,
What I want you to stand up and stand up for your rights. There was that energy in Sheila. And so it wasn't, we weren't so much pious. It was a bit confrontative, that we'd been, and then after you get some kind of grant for the city, then you need to have a sheriff. And then the next thing is you see pictures of guys in red practicing, and it was just like me and my friend or someone else, being taught so that we were now a deputy, something like this. But it looked so sinister, and you see it on the other way,
Yeah.
And so there was so many, all that. It was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what happened from your perspective?
Yeah, when everything kind of
I mean,
imploded.
just as like Miten said, when you build something, you grow a big attachment to it, and you really want this to be forever and to work. And the big, huge lesson and learning was, no, it's not about that. It's not about
Non-attachment.
It's about
Non-attachment.
Yeah. Wow.
yeah. So just
To that degree,
yeah.
not just in a meditation room, but a whole city, you're halfway through it. Everything was, all your dreams were in there.
Wow.
Let it go.
And let it go.
It was a humbling experience, and for us in front of the whole world, because of obviously it was all in the news and everything.
Yeah.
So that was a great Zen.
Yeah.
You know the Zen story, the Zen stick, and you get when you're meditating in Vipassana, the Zen master comes around with a stick, and he just on your head like that, and you have no idea, but it just like it's a wake up for that, and that ranch, the whole thing felt like a huge Zen stick. We suddenly, as a community, woke up.
Wow.
We weren't this great thing.
Right.
Suddenly we were being disgraced on television to our families and everything. I knew this guy was a bogus guy, and never a moment's doubt that this was the most amazing thing that he gave us.
Wow.
Wow.
And to go from that to getting back to India.
Yeah.
So that's where you guys went after all of
That's
that?
when we met. That's
Yeah.
when we first
Yeah,
met
we-
when we came back.
I mean, Osho was trying to find a new place or we were trying to find a new place to live so we could be with him.
Right.
And 21 countries refused him entry. And it was
I know.
a kind of a world tour where one after the other, either they wouldn't even let him out the airport, like in London, they wouldn't even let him out the
Oh
airport.
my
my
God.
God.
Because of his reputation at
Yeah,
Yeah,
the U.S. government. The U.S. government, he said, poisoned him. In the
Right.
end. They poisoned him.
In the end.
Yeah,
No, already in the end of
the end of that movie, round about that time when
Yeah.
they got him and then pulled him back, there was a lot of unsaid stuff went on. They took him away from his doctor because he was asthmatic and stuff, and they were putting him in different jails for 6 days to get him back to Portland. Anyway, that's another story. But
India was the last place
That was
because
the
they
last-
had to take him. He's Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So then
they
he
had
went
to
back
accept
to the
him.
ashram that he had lived in before he went to.
That's
he was
fascinating.
dead at 58. He was
Wow.
dead at 58. All his teeth were falling out. Could hardly stand up. He
Do you-
wasn't attached to his body. He was like, this is just what's happening.
Wow.
And then one day, he just decided, that's it. Just went. and wow. And
Decided?
all that.
It sounds like suicide. He decided
Oh, no.
that's-
Oh, no, it wasn't suicide.
No. He just sort of.
No,
He
he
just
just
passed,
decided
right?
it was
That
enough.
it was
I'm sure
okay.
he knew he could decide
Oh wow.
very clearly what he wanted to do, because he would often say to us, look, don't get attached to the physical. It's not me as you see me. That's why he was telling jokes and trying to do things I just want to destroy your idea of a holy man. 'Cause that's another thing you're going to get caught with.
Right.
So we want to do as much as I can to continually challenge you to be in the moment and to look and
And to
be.
look within rather than
Yeah.
out.
Which is very interesting because you also see, in that film as well, where, they portrayed him as somebody that was a guru that had Rolls Royces and he had all this
Yeah.
wealth that he was
Yeah.
accumulating.
Yeah.
And, which was, again, when you look at it from that perspective, you're like, well, why would somebody that's so connected to their soul and their heart would even need those kinds of things,
Well, why do you think? Why do you think?
Well, I think it
No,
makes a lot of sense of
yeah,
what you're saying now.
Well, yeah, you know why? You know why? It's because he wanted to wake up America. He was like, he was like, what? How can I get these guys to look up from their consumerism?
Right, yeah.
Get me a bunch of Rolls Royces. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it went down that way at all. But if he's got one Rolls Royce, then you can say, it's got a Rolls Royce, look, that, but 90 was like, it's got to be something. It's got to be some absurd thing going on, man. That's not, it's more than just being rich. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what is he saying?
Wow.
What was that?
Right.
It's fascinating through the lens of one side, the American government and the popular culture of that
And
day,
just the
trying
media
to
as
paint him,
well.
the media,
Yeah.
a certain light,
Yeah.
how they can just create a completely alternate reality and narrative where
Well, you even look at the way they've done the documentary, right? Like
Well, yeah,
if you see it
exactly.
from that perspective, you're like, oh wow, yes, this is a cult. This is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see it from that way.
know.
They
I know.
paint it in that color for everybody,
but it's,
right?
it's
Yes,
like
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate being able to talk to somebody that's
Yes.
there to get an understanding from the inside, which is very
Yeah.
I think in this day and age especially, like people love to attach themselves to narratives that are fed through places that make everything very simple.
Yeah.
The simplicity of everything, whether it's COVID or whether it's all of the things, climate change, all the things going on in the world, it's like, well, that's what they said, so I'm just going to take it at face value.
There's
Exactly.
no
But a
nuance.
little investigation
Yeah.
and a little conversation, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you can see, wow, there are always such a multi-dimensional way to look at every truth that
I mean-
can paint it in all kinds of different ways.
Exactly.
What they did to Jesus, man. You know, you
Right.
don't mess around with society.
Yeah.
You start standing up and doing things in a different way, you better watch out.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's not the only one, but he was radical. He was radical guy. He was like, come on, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's not mess around, but with love.
But with love. Love first.
And
Love
that's, I
first.
think, the
Love to
beautiful
the
part
max.
is that no matter how much they want to paint him with a certain colors, it's you look at it from what you both experienced. There is so much love. He was connecting people to themselves. Like you build these communities, and like you were bringing the light forward. Like that's what the whole
That's
point
the
of it.
mission.
That's the mission. And so, if you look at it from that perspective, I'm like, it's amazing what he was doing.
Well, and
It's so beautiful.
birth from the crucible of that entire situation. I think the most beautiful gem to come out of it is sitting right here, as far as I've experienced, like two of you. Like your mission from that point forward and the experience of what that gave to you. That's
what
like,
you bring forward now as well. To
and
the
what you,
rest of the world,
your contribution
Yeah.
of everything you experienced to translate that into a lifetime of work.
And that's where we really also, that it's so beautiful because he always brought us all, not all, but so many different spiritual paths close. You know, he could just, he would talk like 10 days on only Buddha.
But
you
I
know,
like
the-
that Zen story.
Or he would only talk on Sufism for months, or he would talk on Zarathustra or on Jesus or the, you know, certain gospels, or, you know, like he would go so deep, and he was very knowledgeable also. He was really a philosopher as well. I mean, in a way that he really could see the essence and bring it out through words,
Right.
really like,
And funny too.
yeah.
He had great humor.
And so that's really reflected in what we share now, because we are not like kirtan. We don't do traditional kirtan. We don't just sing mantras. We also sing sacred chants from other cultures.
Yeah.
And so that's really how we live Osho's vision. You know, that you see the essence and in all these different parts. They all have a different flavor. You know, so like Sufism or
I love that.
you know.
Well, as co-creators too, the two of you, like for that long, without a home,
Yeah.
like do with like
Many
devotion
homes, I guess
with,
that's a better way to say. With many homes.
The,
Yeah.
the
my
world,
home.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you
Here's my
go.
home.
Been pretty home sailing, really. There's not been a lot of. It's just, it really, it's destiny, you know. I honestly feel there's just no way this could have come together without some guiding hand. There was too many connections that were bringing us to this moment now.
And how
You know.
and how do you do it? Like we've been together 12 years.
And we
We've
work
spent 24
together.
hours a day together, 1 week apart in 12
Right,
years.
well done, you
So
two.
similar. We have you're further ahead, but
Yeah.
everyone asks us, how do you work? How do you
And
live?
live,
How do you
yeah.
be? How do you do everything as a unit?
Yeah.
What's your guys' answer to that question?
Well, you might not want to hear it, but for me and David, what happened was we met in Osho's ashram, number one. Number two, Osho's ashram, in another way of saying it, was almost like a huge tantric experiment of becoming your own understanding of your own experience of the divine, where you are not you're not yourself, or you're not your personality. So that was there. So, and our age difference was so huge. David was 20 years old. She'd been in the ashram for 3 years, and I was 43. And one day, David came up to me out the blue and asked me if I would be a model for her for a session. And we had that session. She gave me a session. It was shiatsu. She was studying shiatsu. And she gave me this session. It was beautiful. And that's where we became friends, and then we just just kind of drifted into being, well, let's stay together again tonight as well. We might as well, and another night, and then and then. But it was also free to experience what it would be like to be on your own. Maybe Deva wanted to be with someone else, or I wanted to be with someone else, and that kind of attitude freed me from jealousy. Suddenly I was free of that kind of attachment. I wanted Deva to experience whatever she wanted. She was my friend and my young friend, so it was like a great thing for me. Whatever she needed, she was my blessing, So that understanding has been with us from day one. And although we're not running around in other people's beds anymore, or we never were, not really. We did at the start when we were in the ashram.
Yeah.
But it's based on the spiritual path as a priority.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get to that, then you're going to be able to encourage each other. What do you need? Go for it. I'm here. And, if you can get into that space, then you have, because in the end, it's not just about having a sexual partner.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, you want a friend. We should write a song. In the end, you want a friend.
It's beautiful.
But it's all the couple stuff gets in the way if you're not careful.
Yes.
Because, it's just,
Tell them your secret.
What's my secret?
Oh,
What's the secret?
the secret.
There's something else you're not going to want to hear. No, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. David said, my secret really is, I just do what she tells me. And I guarantee that you will become enlightened and your beloved will become very happy. Very
That's
happy.
a good secret.
I think my intuition has led me to a similar path at many times. So I understand that.
But, it's just everybody has an individual thing, but you guys are over that hump already. You're into a nice place with each other. See that? That's great. And as long as you're creating together,
Yes.
Yeah.
fantastic.
I say that a lot to people.
Oh,
I tell them that creating together and having a co-creative mission or a purpose, is sort of, that makes everything else, whether it's an argument or it's anything, all the stuff that you could get caught in, all that never seems to matter as much because there's something bigger, there's something more that you're here to do together. And as long as that becomes a priority, then everything else is just kind of a speed bump that you can sort of look back at once you're over it and be like, oh, that wasn't that silly.
Yeah.
It rattled us for a second or whatever it might be.
Let it go as soon as you can.
Yes.
Let it go fast.
Oh my goodness, yes. It's crazy. Wow. I just have to ask something actually, because it's a little bit out of left field. You guys ever watched Battlestar Galactica?
I'm curious where you're going with this.
Well, I'm curious why you're laughing.
I'm laughing because no, I don't watch Battlestar Galactica.
No, because they asked us, they wanted to use our Gayatri mantra as the title track.
They wanted to use it.
Like 20 years ago or whatever.
The guy, what's his name? James?
Almost.
Edward James Olmos, yeah.
And so, and then in the end they didn't, and then they used.
They ripped us off.
They
ripped us off, man. They ripped us right off.
Mark and I have
But
seen.
you know what? The thing is, the Gayatri mantra. Sorry, darling.
No, I was just gonna say Mark and I have seen the show, and every time
We haven't just seen the show.
we really like
Due
it.
to its like cosmology and the
I don't know.
astrological.
Is
and
it?
It's really beautiful.
The
Oh,
spiritual
wow.
nature of that show. I don't like television, but that show,
It's a good show.
it's incredible
Oh, you
from
watched
the
it?
heart in a really interesting way.
But the really interesting thing is that when we were watching it, and the intro to the episode starts, it starts with like you can kind of
Yes.
hear there's a
I mean, it's
Gayatri
the
mantra in there.
Gayatri.
Yeah.
And every time I was like, this sounds like Deva Premal. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every time I would say that to Mark,
Yeah.
I'm like, do you think like they were? So it was like from that moment, this was 6-7 years ago when we watched the show for the
At
first
least,
time.
yeah.
And so we were like convinced that we're like, for
Yeah.
And then
sure.
one day we decided to look it up because we were just like, oh,
Yeah.
it's her.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And then we looked it up and we're like, it's not.
I know.
And then I thought,
I
like,
know.
they really did a number on them.
Yeah.
Like,
And there was an interview where almost says that to get into the role, he listens to Deva Premal. That brings him straight into his role.
and he had a huge hand in the creation, which is
Yeah.
interesting. But his character, that's so fascinating because his character is like, it's this really beautiful, like he has to play a role of a man that tells a lie to the last remaining human beings. That's a very spiritual biblical tale, and he has to learn throughout the arc of the 6 seasons to believe in the thing which he doesn't want to believe in the most, which is like that there's more to all of this,
Yeah.
that there is a spiritual nature to it.
Yeah.
So his character and his stoicness, and there's 2 moments in the show where he actually cries, where he like, and that's his opening, and you see these
Yeah.
beautiful openings.
Oh, wow.
And when I heard that he had a hand in that, and then found out it wasn't you, I was just like, there has to be some kind of.
Yes.
I had no idea.
It's
So
so
he
funny.
used to listen.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he
I-
must have been the one. He must.
He
must
did.
have
He
been-
was sent. He was. You know, there were emails going backwards and forwards,
Yeah.
and
With
he.
him?
Yeah, he really wanted it, and he was like,
Yeah,
"I'm so
yeah.
sorry that they not." You know, and he was pushing for it and pushing for it, and it's just too much money. They said we can easily get someone to copy that and do
I don't
something.
know what it really was.
Really.
Well, yeah, is that?
I mean, we didn't ask for so much money. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It just
Well,
kind of
it's
just
no. I
dwindled.
think it's more. It's not about what we ask for. It's what if it becomes published in that thing.
Oh, like
there's
okay.
a lot of money.
Okay.
wouldn't
like
come
the-
the
to that.
publishing
Oh,
side of it.
Publishing.
Yeah.
side. Mm.
But then
Wow.
he did another. He produced another movie called Walkout or something, and then he used one of our tracks.
Oh,
Oh, really?
interesting.
Yes, but
Walk out.
Yeah.
Well, that's my bit of pop culture that I just had to ask.
It's been burning in Mark's like.
For like
chest. He'd be
50
like,
years.
is it Deva Premal?
Well, here's something else you'd ask me about in a few years, and why didn't we ask him back then? And that is it true that Prince Harry said he was playing Deva's music for when his kid was being born? And in his book, he writes that Deva Premal's music was with us when the baby was being born and everything.
Gosh, that's so
And it's
beautiful.
probably the same track as the one that.
I mean, he doesn't say what he just says the soulful hymns
Wow.
of Deva Premal.
Wow, that's
And then there was
interesting.
Cher. I don't know if you know that in 2000 Cher contacted us
Really?
and said, could she sing the Gayatri mantra in her farewell tour, which was then her farewell tour in 2002.
Wow.
And so we actually gave her the files of the Essence track, so
Oh,
that she
wow.
had the backing track.
So you give her the stems and everything.
And then we went to see her in Cleveland in the show, and she sang the Gayatri mantra.
Really? Wow.
Pretty much exactly like our version, with our some of the sounds that we had
You
used.
have to imagine that though. That was another world. That was
Yeah.
like in this stadium, big arena, you know.
How did that feel?
Yeah, we were kind
We
of
were
in
in
tears
tears.
a little bit, you know, because it was pumping, man. Can you imagine a real great band, and these guys, Cher had to, like, these guys were playing the Gayatri mantra, like,
Wow.
you know, and the 3 girl singers and the whole thing, and then Cher comes out on on a clockwork elephant. I mean, it was before Lady Gaga and everything. It was, she was sitting on top of an elephant and chanting the Gayatri mantra, you know, and the people have no idea what she's singing. The whole band is grooving on it, you know.
Oh, wow.
And me and Dave are like, oh my God, this is
You
amazing.
can see it on YouTube.
I gotta
Really?
look that
Okay,
up.
we gotta look
Yeah.
that up. Wow.
We're gonna put that in the show notes for sure,
Yeah, for people to check out.
so people can check it out.
Wow, you guys, that would have been a very powerful
Must- on
moment
an
to
it
experience.
sounds like a dream, like
Yeah.
singing
Well,
on an elephant coming out, and the whole,
Yeah, and there was the Cirque du Soleil dancers, all dressed in
Wow.
kind of Indian-looking
That's
things.
amazing.
that's so beautiful.
And bring it back to this understanding that what they were chanting
Right.
was something deeper than any of them could imagine.
Yeah.
Mm.
These old sounds
Mhm.
that were coming to life in this place, that's what made us cry.
Yeah.
It was, you know, I've seen lots of good people on stage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it was the Gayatri mantra and Cher, I'm like,
Wow.
good girl.
Wow.
Good girl. So
Generating light.
just generating it, you know. And
Wow.
we never met. We were supposed to go back to the dressing room to meet her that night, but it didn't work out for one reason or another.
Wow.
And so, so yeah, and we played for the Dalai Lama also, you know.
guys did?
Yeah, we played for him also.
Wow.
Chanted right in front of him.
Wow. Was that in Dharamshala?
No,
or
it was in Munich.
in Munich.
In Munich.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. That's unexpected.
Wow. That's
Well, he
amazing.
was doing there was a conference going on between scientific science and Tibetan
Scientists.
Buddhism,
Mm.
and where the two meet. And he came to be there for the gathering, and we were asked to play a concert for everyone. There were many thousands, and but before the concert, the day before, we got to be in this room with him and just a few people,
Oh.
and then we sang for him, and I think he had no idea what we were singing at first. We knew it was his favorite mantra. We knew that the Tare Compassion.
Which mantra was it that you guys sang?
Om Tare Tu Tare.
Tare tu tare. Oh.
He was sitting down like this,
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, that's so
and then he
special.
kind of, you could hear him when he felt, oh, it's Tara mantra. And
Wow.
and there was me and David, like two white people playing this mantra for him, that with pure devotion, and anyway, yeah,
That's
another
so
story.
cool. My goodness.
Now here we are.
Yeah, here you
talking
guys
to
are
you.
now.
Yeah.
And about to go in and play for many more thousands of people right now as you guys are. You're going to Canada, I believe, first?
Canada.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we go to Peru. We
Peru
have a,
tomorrow. Wow.
We
Whereabouts
have a
in Peru?
week long in the Sacred Valley with Alberto Violdo
Oh my
and
goodness.
his
Wow.
wife Marcela Lobos.
That would be a special,
That's
like in
super
the
special.
Sacred Valley.
Yeah.
Wow.
About
Super
100
special.
people there with us,
Yeah.
where they do stuff with the shamans, and then we
No
play.
plant medicine, just
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
It's nice.
Wow.
And then to Canada, and
and
then
then Mexico City for a concert, and then Canada.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really.
And how long are you guys going to be on the road now?
Just
for this?
this is just a month.
Just a month?
And then we go longer again in September in Europe,
In Europe.
like the
Fantastic.
Europe
Wow,
tour.
We're
amazing.
going to be up in Canada. Maybe our dates will cross.
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe, because it would be amazing.
We're originally
Yeah.
from Canada.
Oh,
so
East
okay.
Coast,
We're,
though.
we're going to be
What's it? East
Toronto.
Coast?
Okay.
Oh, you're going to the east.
East
I mean, Calgary, Toronto,
Calgary,
yeah.
Your
Montreal.
mom's in Calgary.
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
my mom was in
Gonna
Calgary.
be May
She's
12th.
May 12th. Like, we might actually be
Oh
there.
my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes,
That's
maybe we'll come see
crazy.
you guys. That would be
To see the
amazing.
band. The band are really
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Would
Oh my
love to. That
goodness.
would be
That'd be so
amazing.
special.
Wow.
Put you on the guest list.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. I haven't heard that in a long
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's so
Amazing,
cool.
amazing.
Oh my God. Well, is there anywhere that you'd like to send people to get your music that you'd prefer they listen to it through, like any platforms or websites?
I mean, it's available everywhere now.
Mm-hmm.
What's really close to our heart is that we made our own app,
Oh wow.
and that came out of being here in Costa Rica and wanting to share what we had received over all these years, and also wanting to be somehow supporting people who were not as lucky as us, being in an environment of nature and peace like here. So in the beginning of lockdown, we were online every day for 77 days. We did an online meditation every day for an hour at
that's
2
the Gayatri
p.m.
mantra.
And
Thousands.
it attracted a following of thousands of people that many had not seen us in concert before, or maybe even discovered us new. So that we realized there's this beautiful community that starts also to come to, that already starts to support each other and know each other, So then we wanted to give that a home, and we created an app called the Gayatri Sangha App. We call it the online
Online.
ashram.
That's amazing.
Online
Ashram.
And,
Two puns in one. Fantastic.
I love it.
and it's beautiful. It's been going for 2 years now.
Wow.
And we do every Saturday. So when you're here, you're so welcome to join us.
Yeah.
We do a live stream every Saturday
Wonderful.
to the app, and we have teachers, like friends who share their gifts in the app. We have
Lama Sutra
daily
and
meditations. We have We have a Zoom room where people can meditate with each other, like just a silent room, you know. So it's but just that you have that feeling and also seeing somebody else meditating at the same time and
Wow.
That's
chat
fantastic.
and
That's
you know it's a really
amazing.
beautiful, it's a super beautiful space.
Recipes.
Yeah,
Vegan recipes. It's really good.
Vegan
Yeah.
recipes.
Yeah,
Do you
really.
guys eat vegan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's so crazy.
Well, we'll make sure we put all
Well,
the
I'm-
links.
Yes.
And I'm
so
going to
people can-
download it immediately.
Yeah, me too.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's
You'll love
incredible.
Thank you for letting
And we'll
us
put
know.
the link in for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. And also you can let people know about your own work. You know, it's a nice place. People like us on the
About what?
their own work.
I mean, that's what they're. That's where they're.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, a bit out of touch with that stuff.
Amazing.
Oh, you mean in the app?
Yeah.
Oh, in the app.
Oh, in
okay,
the
when
app.
you post in the app.
Sure, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
what I
I'd
cool.
love to
Yeah.
check it out for sure.
That's a really like. Did you guys make it yourself, or how did?
No, it's a template we used.
Template. That's
Actually,
cool.
it's the same as the Rolling Stones.
Really?
No kidding.
Oh wow.
We didn't know that. We have a team of people, you know, so they just found the right ones and then said, check
it
this out.
together.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it then.
We had a really hard time finding a good platform for our app too. And we're still like, it's great, but we wish like these interactive parts that you're describing are really.
Disciple Media is the one we use.
What's it called?
Disciple Media.
Disciple Media.
Okay. Yeah, ours is called
Uscreen.
Uscreen. It's a little frustrating because it can't evolve past a certain level of just distributing videos, where we really like, you know, cultivating community
Yeah.
and allowing people to interact and become more, creating an online space with like more than just a one-way
Well, yeah.
communication.
Yeah, and then you can step back and it starts to
Yeah.
share beyond
And-
people
love that.
sharing each other's techniques and what happened and you wow, this is great. These people
Yeah.
are moving. That's what we want.
It's like letting them build their own city.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
love
cool.
Yeah, it all
Stepping
comes
back.
to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, everybody.
Yeah.
Hit them with the stick after. All right, guys. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank
This
you
has
so
been
much
so,
for
so,
this
so
amazing
wonderful.
time with you both.
Honestly.
Yeah, it's an honor to really sit
Yeah.
down with you, meet you, and to hear your story and everything that
So
has brought
inspiring.
you here today. So
Oh my goodness.
thank you.
So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Goodness.
Thank you, guys.